Welcome to R2Cents, a podcast about money, real life, and the decisions that shape both. Welcome back to the podcast, and today we are sharing our 2 cents on how your actions are teaching your kids bad financial behaviors.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting podcast. We are going to share some things that we've learned as parents over the past couple of years, and by no means do we claim to be experts. We are still learning as we go, but we'll share some practical tips that we've encountered and that we believe has helped our kids better understand finances.
Yeah, so the first one is understanding that more often than not, your kids are copying what you're doing, not what you're saying.
Yeah, this is when it comes to you and Addie, I think this is a perfect example of her watching everything that you do and mimicking you, and you're not telling her, "Hey, you need to be by me," but just she does it by default.
Yeah, I mean, she likes to run errands with me. So, she'll watch me get my phone and my keys and put them in my purse. And she will go into her room and get the exact things that I'm putting in my bag to put in her bag. She's copying my behavior. She's copying my tone when we're talking about things in the car. She's copying my visible actions, not necessarily what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, and I believe the same when it comes to Evan. Just some things that I've noticed with him because I talk to him about finances.
He understands a little bit more than
He understands a lot more than what I even think. And so I mentioned a topic actually this morning. We were driving to school. I was dropping them off at school this morning and we were talking about legacy. And I know it's a 5-year-old and 8-year-old, so why are you talking about legacy? But we're talking about the future and what we are doing to help them. And when it comes to UGMAs and topics like that, which we'll cover in a future program. A UGMA is just a vehicle that you can use to save for your kids. But the point of this point is that I spoke to them about the future and what we are doing. Addie's first inclination was, you don't have to do that. You don't have to spend money. And Evan's like, it's not that he's spending money. He's investing in your future. And this is what it's going to be. Well, this is how your future is going to benefit from it. And I had to explain to him, she's 5. She doesn't quite get it. He's 8 and he understands a bit more. He doesn't fully get it. But just the fact that he could pause and tell his sister who's 5 years old, hey, this is important for your future. You're going to be in a better position than what mommy and daddy was because of them investing into your future.
Right. And one of the biggest lessons is, kids are watching when money comes in, what we do with it, what we do when money runs low, what we do when we feel stressed about money. They're watching your behaviors behind that, not necessarily what you're saying about it.
Yeah, at the same time, you can't just like preach lack, right? And then just say, we don't have this and we don't have that. But in all of a sudden, every day that Amazon package shows up. And so I just believe in being consistent in the message because, again, they are watching. Yeah. And you might think, yeah, they are young and they don't fully grasp it. But if you're saying one thing, but your actions are demonstrating something else, like I said, with the constant purchases or saying we don't have money, but we're always planning trips and things like that, it just paints the wrong picture and it could confuse them in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, if kids are constantly seeing you buying things, then they're learning that there's no benefit to planning and there's no benefit to self-control. Because a parent, even if you can't afford it and you say, well, I'm just going to buy this but in the same breath, you're preaching, we don't have enough to buy you a new backpack for school or whatever it may be, then it's conflicting. That's confusing for a kid.
Yeah, and like for me personally, I think an area for me is just like you always want to give your kids more than what you have, like what you had when you were growing up, right? And so that's a particular area for myself. Even when things were a bit tighter than what it is for us now, I still caught myself wanting to buy them stuff. And so I'm talking about budgets, I'm talking about spending plans, but at the same time, I go down to the store. Guys, take a notepad with you or your phone because I fall into that trap where I come out with things that I
call it grandpa energy. You buy the things for the kids that they don't need.
Yeah. And so to the point, right, in the one instance, I'm saying, yeah, we need to budget, we need to tighten up, but I'm coming out of the store every time with a stuffy or something like that. It just paints the wrong pictures. Like, so is there a money thing going on or is there not? Or can I just ask like 20 times and you're going to buy it for me?
Yeah. I mean, that also plays into our next point, which is shielding your kids from reality. I mean, obviously it has to be age appropriate and it needs to be in due season. But as kids get older, they need to understand if there's a job loss in the family, there's going to be a change in how we're spending money. On the other side, if there is an increase in the family and there's a promotion, you need to understand just because we're making more money doesn't mean that our lifestyle is going to creep up and follow that and we're going to be able to buy a bunch of things. Your kids need appropriate exposure at the right time to what your current financial status is to help create a clearer picture for them and laying that foundation for the future.
Yeah, and it also creates a form of discipline and understanding of where you are. And what I mean by that is if you are constantly saying yes to everything, it's going to carry into their teenager years, and then even beyond that, right? And so you are preparing them for one day to be good adults that's going to go out, maybe start their own families, but you want to help them formulate healthy relationships with money. Because let's say Evan gets married one day, he needs to be able to plan his finances. But if we're always just buying him stuff all the time, that could actually put them in a position, or him in a position in the future, where he's going to conduct himself in that particular way, and it just causes financial stress on himself and for his future spouse. But it's not going to happen because we are paving the right way. We're setting a good example, I believe.
Well, and kids need to understand that money's a finite resource. It's not, if they're asking for things all the time and those things are being delivered upon, then there's no understanding that money can run out and there needs to be a plan for that money. And if they're constantly receiving what they're, asking for or at the store or whatnot, there's no sense of resilience. When they get into adulthood, and we've had seasons of abundance and we've had seasons of less than abundance that have been really hard financially, that as a kid, if they're not building resilience, they're not building, maybe in sports, there's an analogy that many kids can relate to, is when they lose and having to build that resilience of continuing on. But are they doing that with money, or are they getting what they want every time that they ask for it? And so then when they become an adult and they don't have that money, there's no resilience and they fall apart.
Yeah, and in the same breath, right, you can fall over into the trap of just where it's no, 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 and not even doing things. Because I've seen that too, where you've got financial goals. And we actually talk about a podcast that you were watching where this couple were making lots of money, and they had more than what they would ever need, right, just based on their trajectory and what they were setting aside. But they never did family vacations, they never built memories. But when they paused and they actually assessed their financial situation, they realized, hey, wait a minute, we've actually got enough. But they were depriving their kids and themselves too from enjoying their lives, because it was just this no culture. We got to be looking for the future, or looking into the future. And I believe that the future is important, right? But at the same time, you just need to assess your situation, but also realize by saying no all the time, that's not also healthy.
Yeah, I mean, they need to understand, if you are saying no, the why not right now, right? Then they need to understand trade offs, which is a concept that I love. It's in a season of, we need to be saving more for the future. So we're trading off right now and we're not traveling as much. But those, pendulums can swing, and the next year can look a bit different. We don't have to lock ourselves to this constant, this is going to be our budget forever and ever, the next 20 years until we retire. Things are going to fluctuate.
They're going to change. And that's why I love the whole spending plan philosophy, which we talk about. It's not this rigid, hard and fast thing where it's just like, this is what we can do. This is the only thing that we can do. But you look at it on a consistent basis and you adjust with seasons, like with job change, but also with goals. Like your goals should change as you grow in life, right? Your goals are going to change as your kids get older. Your goals are going to change for you individually, but for your family as well. And I think that's just important, just to be fluid. Yes, to have systems in place to automate certain things, but to be able to pause and to adapt and to reassess, I think that's extremely vital, which I don't think we always focus on. When I say we, people as a whole, we just have the system, or we just have this budget and this is all that we can do. But being able to pivot is important.
Yeah. Another behavior is when it comes to talking about money, especially in a marriage, in a family, and how there can be tensions that arise. We've talked so much in this podcast about how important it is to sit down with your spouse, to talk through goals, to talk through the numbers and know what you're bringing in and what's going out. And if kids see tension in those discussions, and they're going to relate that to how they feel in the future about money. Another concept that we've talked about before is how your childhood lays the foundation of how you treat money as an adult. In this podcast you were talking about earlier, it was kind of a psychological podcast talking to this couple about the things that they experienced as kids. And, we are setting that foundation for our kids right now. And so if your kids are seeing you stressed about money, and look, we are all stressed about money at one point or another in our lives, but it's the way that you approach it, and it's the way that you talk about it and the way that you handle it as an adult, that the kids will pick up on that energy. They'll pick up on, I had a bad day 2 days ago and I was sitting in the closet, and the kids knew something was wrong. My behavior was different. My words and my actions were different. And so if kids are seeing that, they're going to relate money to stress as an adult all the time. They're going to relate money to conflict, money to guilt. And those negative behaviors aren't what you want to settle your foundation on when it comes to money.
Another thing that's very important, mentioning the kids when it comes to this, is never, and I can't overemphasize this, but never put the blame on the kids, right? Because it's not their fault. Just because they are in sports and now all of a sudden you're not able to pay a bill, and that's because of them. You chose to do that, right? And it's not fair on the kid to hear that your current financial situation is because of them, because it could make them just the impact on the kid's life, right? Just like the again the negative feelings, the emotions towards themselves, like I'm the problem. You don't know what those statements are actually, how it affects your child. And we hear lots of stories about people that are successful, and more often than not, parents spoke good words over them, guided them with regards to positivity, self belief, and things like that. But then you hear other cases where it wasn't quite the same. And so I think as a parent, you have a responsibility to be feeding your kids with positivity. And yes, if there are bills that have arisen due to your child, you and your spouse go into the room, resolve it. If you are married, if you're a single parent, similar thing, speak, get wise counsel with regards to this, and see how you can change things. And then if there is a season that you're going to have to pause the extracurricular activity, the sports, the way in which you communicate it to the child is essential, because it could have a long lasting impact.
Absolutely. I will say, Evan and I had, it kind of relates to this subject. Evan and I had a discussion just a couple days ago where we were talking about the sport that he participates in. And, we've gone through seasons of like, oh, I don't want to play or I don't want to go to practice or whatnot. And we've talked about the value in what we pay for that sport. So he does have an understanding. Now, it wasn't a blame of, we pay so much for this for you. You're going to go do it. I'm telling you, you're going to do it. It was, hey, this is what we invest in this sport. If this is something that you're not enjoying anymore or something that we need to look at adjusting, because we're big proponents of committing to a team or having one thing that they're committed to, an extracurricular that they're committed to, then maybe we need to look at adjusting it. So he understood the value of that sport from a financial aspect and what we are contributing to it, but it was not a guilt-based discussion. It was a, hey, this is a kind of a costly thing every month. So if you're feeling like you want to try something else, then maybe we should look at transitioning if you're not enjoying this anymore. So I think there's a way to go about it, like you were saying, not putting the blame on the child, but helping them to understand. God, we all know sports are expensive. I know we get travel cheer competitions. Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame in South Africa, but um, helping them understand the value behind it. Because then I think that there's some appreciation behind that too, as Evan's gotten older, understanding like, oh yeah, this, we do pay a good bit to participate in this. And that helped him realize, okay, I really do value this sport and I value the money that goes into it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you don't need to have perfect finances, right? Your finances is going to evolve over time, but having healthy conversations with your spouse and then also with your kids, I think is, again, it's very important, because just the manner in which you communicate actually affects those around you, and it could affect yourself too.
Yeah, another behavior that parents can do that can be detrimental for kids' financial behavior is overcompensating from your own childhood. And this goes back to the whole psychology behind this, but as parents, we always want better for our kids, and we always want the next generation to do more, be stronger, work harder, all the things than we did, as was, I'm sure, the story for our parents, for us. But this one is hard, because if you grew up in a scarcity mindset or in a family where you just didn't have the money, in a lower income household, you want to be able to provide and do better, and that is absolutely noble and a great thing to strive for. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're not overdoing it. And as we mentioned before, if you're constantly giving and giving and giving, especially if it's to the detriment of your spending plan, if you are spending on your kids far beyond what you can afford, that is going to be way more detrimental to them than the physical things you're buying them in the season.
Yeah, another one to add to that is growing up in a household where finance was taboo, or you just didn't know, right? And so we live in the day and age where there's just so many resources available that there's no need not to know anymore. That I think, yes, again, I look at myself like wonderful parents, grateful for the example that they gave me, but we never spoke about finances. They never knew it themselves, so they couldn't impart knowledge when it came to personal finance to me. I could just have said, yep, I don't know this either, and I'm just going to wing it to fly through life, right? And there's just consequences that comes with that. But on the flip side, what I've done and we've done as a couple was we have been intentional about learning finances, but then imparting it to the next generation through the discussions and then age appropriate conversations. Because yeah, they are watching, as we said on the first point, and you can't always go back to, oh, I didn't know.
And another behavior, more so for those with adult children, is the rescue behavior, the swooping in when things get tough, especially when the kids just leave the nest. You have young adults now that are learning how to live on their own for the first time. And if you are constantly swooping in of, okay, well, we're going to cover your rent for this month. Well, just this one time, we'll cover your utilities. That creates consequence. I mean, these are small consequences now as young adults when they're learning how to build a spending plan and they're learning how to appropriately buy, things within their budget. There's consequence that comes with spending more than you make. And as an adult, those are young adult, those are often smaller consequences. Whereas 20 years down the road and they get into a mortgage they can't afford, and now they're foreclosing on a home or having to file bankruptcy. If you're constantly swooping in and saving your adult child, then what's going to happen 20 years from now or 40 years from now when you're not here to be able to swoop in, and they have much bigger consequences to deal with.
Yeah, and I believe like you mentioned it, especially rife when it comes to adult kids, right? When I say adult kids, like kids in their 20s or kids in college. And I think there's also seasons, like if they are going to college and you're still going to cover their medical and you may be giving them a start in life. But at the end of the day, they've got to learn to stand for themselves. I was speaking to somebody a few weeks ago and he indicated that his kids are in their 20s, but he's paying for their phone bills, he's paying their car insurance, he's paying for this, that, and that. And it's affecting his financial situation, but he doesn't know how to tell them. So at the same time, the kids are just expecting this, and when it gets to the point where he's not able to afford it, he's doing them a disservice.
It's a culture of expectation at that point.
They're not going to know how to cope, and all of a sudden you get angry with mommy or daddy because we're expecting this, but you're just painting the wrong picture from the start. And then I think also even with younger kids, like I'm gonna share what happened in our house a few days ago.
Oh no, I don't know what this is about.
Yeah, you'll find out soon. So our kids were jumping on the bed in the guest bedroom. And I must say that I'm proud of Evan for coming, because he came into the room and he said, well, I guess I'm going to be honest. It's important to tell the truth. And I was like, okay, what happened? And he told us that they broke the guest bed.
Yep.
Right. And so from that, it's like, oh man, like there's going to be money outflow. But at the same time, I'm going to give him credit and Addie credit, because they owned it. We hardly go into that room, the two of us. It could have been weeks. We would have found this broken bed, but they owned it. But at the same time, they realized it was going to be a consequence. Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, they worked for their grandparents, and they've gotten some gifts over the past couple of months. And so they each had about $30 each. Yeah. And I said, well, so there's a consequence, and you're going to help contribute towards this. Mm-hmm. And Evan's immediate response, okay, you can take all my money. And he's like, so you can take my money?
The difference between our two children is very stark.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, he again spoke to her why it's important. Like, we broke this, so accountability. Again, she's younger than him, so she doesn't fully understand it because daddy's just taking my money from me. Yeah. But she arrived at the point, and we're not going to take all their money, but I think we need to take some of their money just to show them that things cost money. Because otherwise, you can just go around breaking stuff. And yes, as a kid, I broke stuff in the house, and there was some consequences. But I feel this is helping them, that they realize, wait a minute, these things do cost. And if I do something which I shouldn't be doing, it's going to cost me. And so that was just one thing that stood out for me this week. Even like we share things as we experience them, right? That we could be in a position where we're just going to pay for things.
They'll remember these instances, and I'm sure there'll be many more to come in the time that they're still under our roof. But then, as an adult, they understand. I made a reel recently, like asking the kids how much things cost, like how much is a gallon of milk and things. And it's cute at this age to see what they think. But those are the things. If you're not having those discussions, if they're not going to grocery stores with you as teenagers, if they're not seeing, yeah, we bought you this new bed that's, however many hundreds of dollars, then they're not going to know as a young adult, which kind of leads to my first point. So when we're talking about all these things, all these behaviors, and it's like, okay, well, then what are you going to do to fix it? One of the first things is let them see the process. Let them, so, and back to our bed situation, once we told the kids, you're going to help contribute. You're going to give some of the money that you earned. Mommy and dad are going to put money aside. We're not just going to go jump on a credit card and buy a $500 bed frame. We're going to put some money aside for the next month or so, or 2 months, and then we'll collectively buy it together. But I'm going to show them. I was showing them for the prices of different beds on, different websites, even over the last week. So, letting them see the process of that and what you're spending on those purchases is helpful to build a true reality of the cost of things.
Yeah, and I think you do a good job at that, just in showing them and making it practical, right? And yes, could we go out and buy the bed? Yes, we can, right? However, I think they need to see it as a journey because it just shows them that yeah, you're not always going to be able to get things right now. And I think even if you could get it, maybe just pause, just wait because then a better deal might come around, or maybe you don't really need it. In this case, we need the bed, but just with like other purchases for them, like, I mean, if you've got kids, like they'll get a new toy today or they'll get something new today, and then 2 days later they want something else. But that's because we live in a society where we just buy, buy, buy.
Right. And, another thing we like to do is narrate our decisions, which I've mentioned this before, but, if the kids will be asking for something, they want to go get ice cream after school or they want to buy something new, and we have money set aside. Most recently it was our spring break trip and the kids are wanting to go out to eat. And I said, you know what? We are choosing over the next few weeks not to go out to eat so that we can set that money aside on top of what we've already saved to use for when we go on the trip. And so narrating the decisions too, when you're having these trade-offs and you're saying, no, but this in the future, or we can't do this today, but we will be able to do X, Y, and Z next month, that helps create understanding as well of it's not just no, no, no all the time. Mom and daddy always tell me no, but it's we're saying no because, and fill in the blank from there.
Yeah, and to add into that, it's just like we are going to do this and we're not going to do that. Just like giving them options or showing them options again, right? Like with Addie's birthday coming up, we are doing an early birthday. And so it is either you do this or you have a party. And at first, again, it was like, I want both. But again, it's just like either you can choose. Yeah, because at the end of the day, as Brittany mentioned, money is finite, right? There's just a limited amount of resources that you have. But teaching them these principles are vital.
Yeah. Another thing is having simple family rules. When we start moving towards the end of the year and it's Christmas, Addie loves stuffed animals. She loves those stuffies. So we have a discussion every year. Okay, what are you going to give away? So you're bringing in whether it's one in, one out, or 4 out, 1 in type of thing. But it's like if we're gonna get you 3 birthday presents, then you're going to give away 3 things. You're going to donate 3 things. So you're not only helping them understand that giving is important in their lives, but understanding that we don't need to hoard all these toys and things for just the sake of having stuff. So having simple family rules or having a waiting period before, we'll go, kids are pointing out things at Walmart or Target, and we'll take a picture of it and be like, okay, we're going to take a picture of it and we're going to remember it. And maybe I'll send it to grandma and she'll decide to buy it for your birthday or something. So it's delayed gratification, and it's teaching the kids that money's a finite resource and that there's some resilience in having to wait to get what they want.
And life is not just about themselves, right? Like the one in, one out principle is awesome. It teaches what has taught them so much. And just I've mentioned this before in one of our podcast episodes, was when my mom came over and the kids gave some toys and she took it back to some underprivileged kids back in Cape Town. At first, again, it was just, but it's mine, it's mine. But eventually they gave it. But when they saw the video that my mom sent, they were excited. And Addie mentioned to me the other day, next time we go to South Africa, can we take more toys and can we meet the kids? Yeah. Because she wants to make a difference. The more that you practice this and you show them your family rules.
And setting the example.
The more this becomes real to them. And part of our philosophy, or one of our core foundations in life, it's about being a blessing to other people.
Yep, absolutely. And, another thing with your finances is normalizing imperfection. So if you are angry or falling apart, or there's raised voices and fighting in the house when there's overspending or there's a mistake, we're all going to make mistakes. We're all human. Having to ask your child for forgiveness or saying, I'm sorry, I messed this up. So your kids seeing the imperfection when it comes to your spending or spending plan or whatnot, that's helpful as well. That's super powerful for them to understand that it's okay if I mess up. Our firstborn is very much a firstborn, and
what does that mean?
He's very much perfectionist and doesn't like messing things up. And so we've been trying to show him, look, it's okay. We make mistakes. We're human. But what we do have to do is bounce back from them, approach them in a way that we learn from them. And then moving forward, we know, hey, this is in the past. We're going to forget about it. We're not going to dwell on it, but this is how we're going to fix it for the future.
Yeah, what you said about even learning from them, because I've learned stuff from my kids, just always being teachable. And if they can see you as somebody that's going to own like your mistakes and say, forgive me, and also to be teachable, they in turn are going to do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, kids don't want perfect parents. They don't need perfect parents. They need parents that are approachable, that model awareness, that love them, and that model ownership and say, I screwed up. I'm sorry. I mean, I really think you've done a great job with that in conversations with Evan of if you said something that you didn't mean or whatnot and apologizing to him, that has built that trust because we've been talking a lot about trust in our family and not hiding things
And no secrets amongst the four of us.
and that's how, I think played into him coming and talking to us about breaking the bed and being honest. And he said, I know I have to be honest about this. And, that'll build the foundation for when they're an adult as well as they, figure life out and figure out their finances on their own. So to wrap up the podcast, the R2Cents question of the day today is, what is the most overrated food in America?
Oh man, there's so many. And just disclaimer, she doesn't tell me the questions before she asks. I am going to say pie.
Pie, like sweet pie?
Yeah, sweet pie, like the stuff you guys eat.
Like apple pies and stuff?
Yeah.
Why is it overrated?
Because people like it and I don't. I'm just joking.
Is it like the consistency?
I think because I grew up eating more, is it called savory pies? Like chicken pies, steak pies.
Most people have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
How to describe it?
It's a pie, which
It's like a flaky pie crust that has,
I think pot pies. What do you guys call it over here?
I guess it's kind of like pot pie.
It tastes a whole lot
A
better.
little less soupy.
You get it at the garage, right?
Is the gas station.
Thank you. At the gas station. So if you've gone out at a late night or even if you just forgot your food, you go and you buy a pie and it's got steak, it's got chicken and mushroom. It is awesome.
So you don't like the sweet pies?
Not at all.
Well, I guess that's where we differ. Well, that's it for today. We'll catch you next time on the podcast.